floor, Laura, whenever you want.
Thank you very much, Maya. It was really lovely to meet you on that Instagram live like years ago now, and I'm really pleased to be in this position now and working together for the greater good. So without further ado, I'll just hope everybody can see my screen okay. So all that. Okay. Great. So hi, everybody. It is an absolute pleasure to join you guys to talk about such a hot topic about sugar cravings. So I'm sure many of you have experienced having a sweet tooth. Many of us do have a very sweet tooth, so you're certainly not alone, but it can be something that can impact your progress and impede your weight loss, basically. So I'm going to skip onto the agenda. So I'll be going through various points. So how I work as a practitioner, and I'll explain a little bit more about how I do things, but I work in a way where I like to understand things. I don't want to just do it, because why would I do something if I don't know why, what the reason for it is? So I want to understand why someone has a blood sugar imbalance, or why someone's craving that sugar all the time and can't beat it no matter what they do. And then when I've got that why, I will be able to make much more educated decisions on how to strategize with someone's nutrition. So that's why I always explain why. So we're going to drill down into why it's so addictive, what impacts it has on the health, and also how we can practically use use certain techniques to overcome sugar imbalance. So a little bit about me. So I'm a nutritional therapist, and that means I'm not a nutritionist. Technically, I'm not a dietitian either. I'm a nutritional therapist because I work on people with clients with chronic diseases. So you might have diabetes, you might have PCOS, other hormonal imbalances, you might even have thyroid problems, or just general issues with health, really, energy levels included. So I've been I trained since 2014 now, which is, gosh, a lifetime ago, and I've been a nutritional therapist for 2 years. Before that, I was a marketer, hated my life, and ended up retraining into something I am so passionate about, and that's really help people get healthy. That's me. Sugar, why is it so addictive? Well, there's research actually showing that sugar is more addictive than cocaine, which is amazing. Basically, what happened in some research studies, especially with mice, what they did was see how fast it caused a dopamine response. So sugar hits basically that dopamine receptor, and so dopamine is your pleasure neurotransmitter. So things like cocaine, for instance, or sugar, or watching a movie or something that makes you feel excited, that's what's causing your dopamine response. And that's what sugar does. It causes you to increase dopamine levels. So when they studied this with mice, they found that sugar rose dopamine levels in 2 seconds, as opposed to 60 seconds of cocaine, which is really fascinating. But it makes a lot of sense, because that's the way our bodies are hardwired. So as we were cave people, when we were cave people and food was scarce, we would have to hunt for whatever we needed to eat. Food wasn't available all the time. So our brains are hardwired to think that sugar, glucose, is our main source of fuel, of course. And to get sugar, you need that motivation and reward. So being the simple human beings that we are, sugar causes that response. So that's why we love it so much. And unfortunately, so does the food industry. So they know that we love sugar and find it so addictive. So they have paired it with fat. So that's why your Krispy Kreme donut is super irresistible, because there's plenty of fat in it. It's been deep fried, covered in icing, and it's delicious. So yeah. This is, I just put together a few bits of a few foods that I found were quite interesting in terms of the sugar content. So we all know bottle of Coca-Cola has a lot of sugar in it. So there's a whopping 65 grams in a bottle of Coke, or 13 teaspoons if you had to like that. So I'm sure many of people are going for Diet Coke, which is not necessarily a better option, but I will go into that at another time. But think about the amount of sugar that you're consuming, 65 grams. That's a hell of a lot of sugar in one go, and that's for sure going to spike that blood sugar. So, and then you've got your dairy milk bar at 25 grams. And if it's a 45 gram bar, that's basically half a bar. That's half a bar of sugar that you're eating. But funnily, when we're looking at health foods, things that we think are healthy, smoothie bowls, for instance, and this is a recipe I got from the Minimalist Baker. So I don't know if anyone uses this recipe website, but I do. I love her recipes. I think they're fantastic because she only uses like, I don't know, 5 ingredients for everything. But if you look at the recipe, that whole smoothie bowl has 25.9 grams of sugar in it. Not healthy at all. So when you see people eating smoothie bowls on Instagram thinking they're super healthy, they're really not, because that's just basically pure sugar in refined form. And then you've got deliciously Ella granola. I love that stuff. It's so tasty. But if you look at it, 45 grams of that has already 7.2 grams of sugar. So that's quite a lot. But anyway, I've put some of the nice substitutes on the side to help you find something that would satisfy that sweet craving, but with minimal impact. So screenshot that if you like. And also, by the way, if anyone has any questions, please do pop them in the question box I forgot to mention earlier, and I'll answer them at the very end. Oh,
sorry, Laura, can I just butt in and just say something there? I loved how you said that the typical like healthy looking foods are usually the ones that have the most sugar. And I think this is like a big marketing ploy. So, you know, when we look at things like, I love innocent smoothies, but they look healthier in comparison to other things that are less branded. So it's quite important, you know, as you're going through your shopping or you're trying to pick something, that the things that usually look healthy, when you turn them around, substitute into something else, it's actually better for you. You know, you don't have to spend more money on the stuff that looks healthier by brand, because chances are they've made it look that way. It's the marketing side of things.
Absolutely. And as I was a marketer in my previous life, I know exactly how like the marketing industry does their thing. They know exactly how to make packaging look amazing, and also how to use these buzzwords like high protein and keto, vegan, you know, all these buzzwords make you think, oh, it's super healthy. And then, as Maya said, turn it around, it is not always what it seems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so why do we need to keep blood sugar balanced? So we all know that blood sugar imbalance can lead to things like insulin resistance and diabetes. But really, what is the impact? So I actually nicked a graphic from Glucose Goddess. I don't know if any of you follow her on Instagram. She's her handle is @Glucose Goddess. Love her. But basically, the blood sugar chart here. So your blood sugar needs to be kept in this ideal range. So if you imagine eating a bowl of pasta, it will shoot your blood sugar up right here. So what that does is raise your blood sugar levels. So, and that's normal because you're supposed to have increase your blood sugar when you eat some glucose, but your body's supposed to keep it within this nice high range. And that it does it by increasing your insulin levels. And insulin basically takes all of that sugar and puts it into your cells so that you can use it for energy. But the thing is, nowadays our foods are very refined, and the foods that we have increase our blood sugar too much. So if you are to drink a bottle of Coke, it might take you all the way up here. But foods like, if you were a cave person and you're just eating fruit from the forest, then it really shouldn't take you above that line. But we're in 2023 now, and we've got access to all of the crazy foods that we have today. So what happens is when you have a super high blood sugar spike, the problem is with high blood sugar, it's actually really inflammatory and damaging to the body. So what happens is your body overcompensates and can release a lot of insulin, which is the hormone that takes it into your cells. So when it overcompensates, you can end up with a blood sugar slump, which can be like your food coma when you're in the afternoon when you've had a big lunch. So that's when you feel really lethargic, really low in energy, low focus, really, really rubbish. So then over time, if you continue eating like that, your blood sugar can get imbalanced. And that can happen to anybody. That can happen to me. If I ate a slice of cake right now, I guarantee you I will feel sick because I'm not used to the sugar, but then also my insulin levels and my blood sugar balance will go like this. So my body will try and counteract that by releasing more insulin, and that will make me feel like really shitty down here. So yeah. Anyway, back to this graphic. The reason why I love Glucose Goddess is because she compares two different types of food. So if it's like white bread or sourdough bread, you can see that the white bread takes you above the safe level, and then sourdough bread doesn't. So it's really important on understanding the types of food that you're having. So why is it such an issue? So I already touched on the fact that it's very inflammatory. So sugar is quite oxidative. So sugar being glucose, it's very oxidative in the body. So in high amounts, it can actually glycosylate a lot of proteins in your cells, and that can cause damage to your blood cell, your blood vessel lining. It can cause damage to organs, for instance. So people who are in an extreme case, people with diabetes lose their sight or they lose limbs. It can get quite gruesome. So making sure that blood sugar is controlled is really, really important. Secondly, about 4.8 people have diabetes, type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance in the UK, and that's huge. That's like 1 in 16 people. I'm sure everybody here probably knows somebody with diabetes or insulin resistance. And often that's coupled with issues like cardiovascular disease, high cholesterol, fatty liver disease, what's the other one? Obesity as well. So, there's a whole host of problems that come with that. It's also a key driver of PCOS. So I'm sure Maya has a lot of clients with PCOS. So this is probably quite relevant. So from 35 to 80% of PCOS sufferers, most of them have insulin resistance. Some people might not, and it might be down to like hormonal issues, but the vast majority have insulin resistance. So, and why is that? Because insulin basically drives testosterone release. So that can lead to too much testosterone making your periods go away, or you're causing skin issues like acne. So balancing your blood sugar is the number one priority when you have PCOS. And also poor blood sugar control causes weight gain. So what happens is when you have too much sugar in your bloodstream, your body's got to put it somewhere, because otherwise this issue, because it's inflammatory, it cannot stay in your blood vessels. It is too dangerous. So your body has to try to get it into your cells. But the problem is, if you're not using that sugar as fuel immediately, then what happens is it gets stored. And when it gets stored, it gets turned into fat or cholesterol. So if this keeps going on, you can start to see things like fatty liver disease, excess visceral fat. So that's lots of fat around your vital organs, and that's very inflammatory. And then lastly, one thing I always like to touch on, because this doesn't get talked about enough, sugar drives bacterial growth. So if any of you have like gut issues like constipation, diarrhea, bloating, excess gas, thrush as well, like in your mouth, or in vaginally, and dandruff, and maybe even fungal infections on your skin, these are all driven by bacterial or fungal growth. So bacteria that's supposed to be very disease causing, or even thrush, so candida, they love sugar. They love sugar so much, so they'll tap into your craving network to tell you to go find sugar, because that's what they want to thrive. So that's something to look into. Okay, so we've got that down. We know why it's such a problem, but how can we spot that? So these are the symptoms that I would be looking out for if my clients come to me and they're struggling with these symptoms. So frequent urination. If you're just going to the toilet all the time, that's something that I would look into. If you're feeling thirsty a lot of the time, and you're drinking lots of water, but you're still feeling like you need more, that's also a red flag. Feeling tired all the time, and if having a bit of sugar helps you perk you up a bit, that might be an indication of blood sugar imbalance. Of course, if you're craving sugar as well, if you're craving a bit of a sweet when on a regular basis, like if you can't kick the habit of reaching for that chocolate bar or a packet of cookies, then why is your body doing that? Having some cravings for those can be a symptom of blood sugar imbalance. And say caffeine as well. When you're low in caffeine and your body needs something to get it going, coffee, Coke, Diet Coke, those are things that your body will crave when you haven't got a balanced blood sugar. Feeling lethargic and brain fog. When I mentioned the blood sugar crash when you post lunch, often you'll feel lethargic or that food coma. It's really not a nice feeling, and basically that's the symptom of hypoglycemia, low blood sugar. And in people who are actually diabetic, that can be actually quite dangerous. Increasing weight gain. That is an increasing problem, because a lot of people find that they're struggling to lose that weight, or it keeps piling on, but they're not quite sure what they're doing, despite the amount of exercise they're doing or the calories that they're cutting. It's not always a case of doing more exercise. Sometimes excess stress can increase your blood sugar imbalance as well, and I'll talk about that in a bit more detail. If you're feeling really hyperactive after a meal as well, if your meal has a lot of sugar or refined carbohydrates, so like a big bowl of white pasta or a big white bread, for instance, like that can also cause you to feel a bit more hyperactive. Right, and a slump after a meal, that's basically the same as lethargy.
Can I sorry, Laura. Yeah. Can I just ask a little question in regards to the one that you put, like increasing weight gain? I think what's really interesting about how you're speaking about blood sugars here is that once a person actually starts to gain weight, what will happen is they will start to become leptin resistant. As you'll know, like they'll find satiation factors in the foods are going to start to decrease. And the funny thing is about leptin resistance is that when you become resistant to leptin, you're not being able to satiate yourself. So the things that you are craving in response are usually things quite high in sugars, which then feeds the process of gaining more weight, which is why, some people may find that, their appetite's insatiable, because over time what's happened is as they've gained weight, they've been going for these particular types of food, and then they can't actually stop the craving of them over and over again. It's like a double-ended sword. But yeah, I love the fact that you put that one in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a big issue. That's a whole nother topic, actually, leptin resistance, and it really does develop over time. And some people are more genetically inclined to get leptin resistance than others. So it's really interesting on the way that leptin resistance happens, but it definitely happens over time. It's definitely not a quick one. So yeah, if you are feeling like you cannot beat that craving, you're constantly chasing more calorific foods, that's the time to seek help from a qualified practitioner to find out how you can reduce leptin resistance, and definitely get some blood tests done. And I'll go on to that in a moment. Okay, so the mechanisms why it's so addictive, and it's not entirely your fault. So sugar raises your dopamine response. As I said before, being a caveman back then, it was the biological response. You needed to get fuel, and that raised your dopamine response, and that caused you to cause you to seek sugar. So actually what I'm going to do is flick through these and I'm going to talk about each of them in more detail. So secondly, blood sugar imbalance, and we're going to go into that in more detail. And I think I already went through most of that anyway. Nutrient deficiencies, starvation and not eating enough, so i.e. intermittent fasting, high stress levels. I see that very, very often. Bacterial overgrowth and digestive issues, insomnia and poor sleep, and mitochondrial dysfunction. So let's get it. So I already explained this, so I'm not going to go into this in much more detail, but same way we get addicted to gambling or our phones, or scrolling through Instagram, it all hits that dopamine response. And in an age where we're all a bit dopamine deficient, because we're all millennials, I suppose. Some of us might be millennials, some of us might be Gen Z, some of us might be baby boomers. So in this age where we've constantly got the internet at our fingertips, I mean, how many of us are absolutely glued to our phones? Anything that raises that dopamine response, which causes you to feel high and motivated, will cause you to want more of it and more of it and more of it. And that's what sugar does to you. We're not really supposed to have sugar in that such a refined form as well. So of course, back then, if we were cave people, we didn't have refined sugar. All we had were fruits. So and fruits weren't readily available all the time. Nowadays we have fruit on, you can just get it from the supermarket really easily. Usually it should be seasonal, and you should only be able to get access to fruits at certain times of the year, but that's not the case anymore. We have access to sugar at our beck and call. We can get everything we want. So unfortunately that doesn't do very well for our blood sugar balance. So blood sugar imbalance, so I already mentioned this. So of course everybody can actually get blood sugar imbalance, and it will take a while for you to get diagnosed with insulin resistance, even if you were at, say, for example, the higher end. So when you're getting your blood test done, HbA1c is usually the marker that the doctors will use to check your blood sugar balance, right? So even if you're at the very bottom of the higher end of the reference range, the doctors probably say, oh, you're fine, don't worry about it, you're not insulin resistant yet. So if you're creeping up, that's already a sign that you need to check in on your blood sugar balance. So ways you can do that: firstly, I would go to the doctor and do a test for fasting glucose down here, HbA1c and fasting insulin. So that's usually a morning test when you're fasted and haven't had any breakfast. So I'll definitely do that. And if you are very fancy, a lot of people have been using continuous glucose monitors. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's the thing that people stick onto their arm, that circular thing, and they need to scan it. It's fairly expensive though. It's like £200 for the device, and it gives you 2 weeks worth of data. So you just scan every time you eat, or when you haven't eaten, for instance, and you just have a look at your glucose levels. So whilst it's really expensive and sometimes a bit of a gimmick, it is quite interesting to see, actually. So if you're curious ever, I would say go for it if you want to do it. It's really interesting to see what sorts of foods increase your sugar levels and also decrease them. This is highly individual and it differs from person to person. So looking at nutrient deficiencies. So funnily, lots of people don't know this, but various nutrients like magnesium, chromium, calcium and zinc, deficiencies in these can cause sugar cravings. So firstly, chromium is actually one of the supplements I use in order to increase insulin sensitivity. It works on ensuring that your cells can receive insulin, the signals from insulin better. And then magnesium can lead you to have sugar cravings because you need magnesium to keep you calm and less stressed. So if you're in a stressed state, which I'm talking about in a moment, you're more likely to seek high calorie dense foods, because if you're in a stressed state, for instance, if you're a cave person and you're running away from that saber-toothed tiger, you need sugar in order to help you defeat that saber-toothed tiger or run away, But unfortunately, we don't have that stress anymore. Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't. But yeah, here we go. Not eating enough or fasting. So intermittent fasting is one of those hot topics right now. Not everybody agrees. It's interesting. So many biohackers, people who are health conscious, will say that intermittent fasting is something that everybody should do. I very much disagree, and I think Mayo disagrees as well. So intermittent fasting, to be honest, I think it works better for men. It doesn't quite work so well for women. And especially if you already suffer from blood sugar imbalance, intermittent fasting is going to be a no-no. So when you're fasting too much, and bear in mind, fasting overnight where you're sleeping, that already counts as intermittent fasting. If you're fasting too much, so skipping your breakfast, skipping a whole day's worth of food, or even just not eating enough, that will send your body into a stress state. So it will increase your hormone called cortisol, which is your stress hormone. And what cortisol does, it sends signals to your liver to release sugar from stored glycogen, basically. So that makes your blood sugar increase. So the purpose of that is, if in the case of starvation, back when we were cave people, if you're starving, then your body needs to make its own fuel. So that's what happens. And unfortunately, we are not starving anymore. We have like abundant access to food. So if you are starving yourself and causing that cortisol rise and therefore glucose rise, and you're not doing anything with that fuel that's just come out, what you're going to do is store that as fat. You're going to store it back in your cells, and it's going to make more fat cells. So fasting doesn't always work, especially if you have hormone imbalance or a blood sugar imbalance.
Yeah, just to add to that as well, guys, because that's a great one, because I know a lot of people, you know, in our realms ask the question, like, should I intermittent fast? Intermittent fast is not the same as meal timings. So the thing is with women as well, you know, we have hormones, and that's one popular thing that we always say, and we are very different to men. There's certain times of the day that you're going to feel like you need food better than another individual. And what intermittent fasting doesn't do is consider that. So if you are a person, you know, we've obviously coached a lot of people through like Ramadan and everything, and that is a religious sort of part of it. But on a day-to-day, if you script your eating windows between the time that you don't need them, your cravings for sugar are going to go up. You'll probably find that how you eat food becomes a little bit less hygienic, we'll say. You eat really, really quick, or you rush meals. So though intermittent fasting can be great for a lot of people, and it seems to be quite popular at the moment, it's not for everybody. It's the timing of the meals that matter for the particular person, which is really, really interesting. So yeah.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah. Fab, love that. I thought you were going to come on and tell us that, which is all I am.
Yeah, so stress levels, oh gosh, it'll be hypocrite to say I wasn't stressed. Today's been very stressful for me. So when you're stressed all the time, and you've got your manager barking at you, your kids like running around, like your own health issues happening, you're trying to fit everything that you want to do in a day. No wonder we're all stressed. So, I'll explain this bit. So where your cortisol increases your liver, stimulates your liver to make sugar. Often most of us are in constant stress states, and that really doesn't help our blood sugar balance. So I talk about stress levels all the time. I think most of my clients are super stressed, hyper stressed, and they are not managing that enough. They're always giving too much or not giving enough for themselves, and it ends up having repercussions on your health. So when you're stressed like the house is on fire, what happens is that inflammation from the cortisol, the inflammation from increased sugar, that has implications on so many different things in your health. And ultimately, stress is one of the biggest contributors to chronic health. So getting on top of that, understanding where your boundaries are, understanding how that affects your body is super important. So back to your overgrowth. I already spoke about this one, but in a nutshell, we've got bacteria all over our body. There's trillions of bacteria on our skin, in our guts, in our mouth, all of our crevices. We've got bacteria and yeast, viruses everywhere. So a lot of them are symbiotic. They help us whilst we help them and house them. They also break down some nutrients for us. But the problem is, I'm seeing bacterial overgrowth in my clients all the time. So if anyone is struggling with bloating constantly, constipation, loose stools, food sensitivities, abdominal pain, that's a sign to get your gut issues sorted. I'm also seeing a lot of people with oral thrush. If any of you women have vaginal thrush as well, quite often, or BV, that's an indication of overgrowth of yeast and bacteria, respectively. If you're getting dandruff, or even like dry, scaly skin, or even white patches on your skin, that's a sign of overgrowth of bacteria or yeast. So that's definitely something to look into, because these bacteria and yeast, they love sugar. Their main source of fuel is sugar. So if they can tap into the gut-brain connection, because there's that massive gut-brain link, because there's a vagal nerve that connects your brain to your gut, they can actually produce chemicals to send to your brain to tell you to go seek sugar. So partly it's not always your fault that you love sugar. So if you have an overgrowth, I definitely think you should work on your gut first. Insomnia. So not being able to sleep very well. That's such a common problem nowadays. A lot of us, as we are so stressed, a lot of us can't sleep. Not sleeping well over one night increases your insulin resistance, and that can cause your blood sugar to increase. So that's just one night. How many nights this week have you not been able to sleep well? Thankfully, I sleep fantastically. I sleep like a baby every single night. But my partner, he really struggles with sleeping, and I snore as well. So every time I snore, I wake him up. So basically, every night I snore, that's a night of bad sleep and insulin core blood sugar balance for him. So sorry. Yeah. So of course, if you're not sleeping properly, you're going to have poorer energy levels in the next day. You're going to be seeking calorie dense foods, so that will be the high fat foods, high sugar foods, in order to sustain your energy levels throughout the day. Okay, and this I thought was really interesting, where the glucose goddess tested whole milk cappuccino after a bad night's of sleep, and then a whole milk cappuccino after a good night's of sleep. So that barely increased the blood sugar spike. So next up, I'm going to speed up quickly. I don't want to take too long. So this one, I'm going to just gloss over because it can get very, very technical. So that's when I work in clinic, I get so technical and so sciencey, so I'm not going to bore you with that. But basically, your mitochondria are they're your batteries. So that's where you take your sugar and all of your, fats, proteins, and make those sources of fuel into energy, ATP. So that has to happen efficiently. If you don't have that efficiently, then that can cause you to need feel like you need more sugar. That can cause more weight gain, more increased insulin resistance, high cholesterol levels. But the thing is, genetics can cause that to be worse, but it's not always the be all and end all. Genetics only contributes to 25% of your risk of disease, and it's always the environment that pulls the trigger. So if you have any family history of diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, and all of that, I certainly think looking into optimizing your health, your environment, your lifestyle, your sleep, your nutrition, all of that is super important to prevent you from getting any chronic disease. So all of that science, I hope you're not all overwhelmed yet. So going through what we need to do to beat that sweet tooth, it's certainly not easy, but it certainly can be done. I used to be very inclined to grab something sweet after every single meal, or even after dinner. I always wanted to get a chocolate bar, and nowadays I don't feel any inclination to have anything sweet. Actually, I had a sweet dessert last night, and it was one of those healthy ones, and I didn't really, it was nice for the first bite, but then it got a bit too sweet, and I don't really like sweet desserts. So let's find out how to do it. So before we find out how, I always want to ask the question why. So I'm as a practitioner, I'm always asking why my clients, why are they feeling like that in the afternoon? Why are they getting low in energy? And when do they feel low in energy? Is it after a meal, or is it before they've even had a breakfast? Are they finding sugary foods and caffeinated foods making them feel better afterwards, or are they finding that sugary foods causes them to have a slump? Are they skipping meals? Are they feeling weak or dizzy after skipping a meal? Are they having gut issues as well? Are you getting bloating, excess gas production, and farting all the time? That's a sign of bacterial overgrowth. Do you have thrush? Do you have hormonal imbalances like PCOS and genetics as well? So understanding why can help you move the needle so much better and faster than just doing simply avoiding your sugar. So, and things to look at as well. I think it's super important to do blood tests frequently. So if you do suspect that you have blood sugar imbalance, just go straight to your doctor and get it organized. Get a blood test looking at these markers. You might want to screenshot this actually. If you want a screenshot, and then just take this list to your doctor. They'll hopefully do it for you. Sometimes the NHS is a bit tight, so you might have to get these on the private if you can. But yeah, just ask them for these markers, and hopefully they'll do them all. So the reason why I look at blood sugar imbalance, so these ones are your main markers for looking at how well you control your sugar. So fasting glucose, HbA1c, that's the glycosylated protein for when you've had too much sugar, and just measures your ability to handle your sugar over a 3-month period. It's like caramelizing your proteins with sugar, basically. If it's really caramelized in your blood, then that's a problem. Fasting insulin as well, that's your hormone that obviously takes your sugar into your cells. Cholesterol is really important. So cholesterol is super important. Look, there's so much misconception with cholesterol, and it's an important molecule in your body because it's essential to health. If you don't have any cholesterol, you will die. So it's important to have some degree of cholesterol, not too high, not too low. But too much cholesterol can be a symptom of having too much sugar in your diet, because what happens to excess sugar that's not being used, or even fruit sugar as well, it gets converted into cholesterol, and then you can get fatty liver disease, because that's where your excess cholesterol is stored. So that's one thing to look at. Thyroid function. So the thyroid gland sits in your neck, and it's like a butterfly gland, and it basically is a thermostat, and that controls your body temperature, your metabolism, your hormones. It's basically the conductor for your orchestra. So if you have low thyroid function, for instance, so a lot of people have hypothyroid disease, that can mean that you might be a bit more sluggish, you might put on more weight, you might have more constipation, low energy levels, tiredness, thinning eyebrows. So it can be impacted by genes, but often it's due to stress. So checking on your thyroid function is really important, and that will impact your blood sugar balance. Your iron levels as well. You need your iron in order to keep your insulin balanced. Iron deficiency is super common, and if you're feeling low energy levels, then that's definitely something to look into. And other things I need you to look into would be your full blood count, so your red blood cells, white blood cells, liver and kidney panel, magnesium and zinc. I mentioned the glucose monitor before, so I won't go into that again. So balancing your blood sugar without medication. So I think a lot of people have heard about Ozempic, that insulin sensitizing pen that a lot of people are using. Please stay away from that, because it's absolute garbage, and I do not condone it. If anyone is interested, please do ask a question about that, and I'll go into it after. But for the moment, I'm just going to go through these because I'm running out of time. So balancing your blood sugar without medication, first thing you need to do is make sure you have 3 regular meals, not snacking as much, just avoid snacking as much as you can, but having 3 regular meals at regular times as best as you can every single day. And each of those meals should have a good quality protein, healthy fats in it, and fiber in it, because all of these things help you to curb your blood sugar spike. So if you're looking at this, if we look at this graph again, all of these things will basically bind to that sugar in whatever you're eating and keep it from going up. So it takes you much longer to break it down. The problem with refined sugar is it's super easy to absorb, but if your carbohydrates are in a complex form, so for instance, if you're having mashed potato, for instance, as opposed to having potatoes with skins on them, mashed potato is going to be way easier to absorb into your bloodstream than potatoes that have got skins in them, because the fiber from the skin and because they're all intact, it takes your body longer to break it down. So super important to ensure that you've got some complex carbs in there. So I would say sweet potatoes, quinoa, black rice or brown rice is really nice, and also ensuring you've got plenty of vegetables which have not only fiber but loads of minerals to help you keep your blood sugar balanced by sensitizing your cells to insulin. And work on your stress levels. Do meditation, go do breath work, have a massage, make sure you are not stressed. But that's another topic for another time, and I'm not going to go into that in too much detail.
It's funny, Laura.
Here are my list.
Sorry, it's funny because I'm just looking at that, and every bit of advice we do for clients with fat loss or building muscle, whatever it is, it's that. And it's the protein in every meal, making sure they're using food pairing strategies, swapping their higher GIs to lower GIs if needs be. And it's so funny how, like, even making that change, even if your goal is just fat loss, you're actually doing yourself a benefit for your blood sugars as well. So if I have to say protein to one other person from this day, I will throw myself in the sea. So yeah.
Oh my God, babe. The amount of people that don't eat protein in every meal is, if I had a penny for every person, I would be absolutely rich. But yeah, it's one of those things. People just don't think to have protein in every meal. I mean, if I go out to the shop or go to, I don't know, if I go to a healthy food shop to get my lunch or something, there are so many salads on their menu that don't have any protein in it. At all. So they're not even putting I don't know, lentils or chickpeas in there. There's not enough protein because I suppose it's more expensive, I suppose, than carbohydrates, and more people are trying to cut costs. Like restaurants must be cutting costs, I don't know. But yeah, not having enough protein really sucks, because you need that protein firstly to stop you from increasing your blood sugar, but then you need protein for every single cell in your body to do every single function that you have to do in a living life. So make sure you have protein in every meal. Simple as right. Yeah. I'm so glad we're on the same page on that one. Okay, yeah, so I think if you guys need to screenshot anything, feel free. I'm going to share these slides anyway after, but these are my favorite complex carbohydrates to use. So aside, I'm going to give you some sweet tooth substitutes in a moment, but these are my favorite ones. So keeping the skins on potatoes on, sweet potatoes, sourdough bread, love sourdough bread, buckwheat or lentil pastas. These are really nice high protein versions of pasta. So if you're inclined to get wheat pasta, which is much easier to break down, even if it's brown pasta, if you want to go a level up, go for buckwheat or lentil pasta, or if you can tolerate it, pea pasta is also quite good. Anyone with gut issues might struggle with pea pasta. I love black rice. I just love the texture. Red rice as well, love it. It's just recently come on the market in supermarkets. So it's not always readily available, but I've seen it more and more in supermarket shelves. So grab a bag of those. I usually like to mix it with like brown rice, white rice, and black rice. So white rice can be really like a lot easier to digest for some people. So I like to do a third of each one and mix it and then boil it together. Whole oats as well. Oh my gosh, there's so many people who are having like instant oats. So like your Quaker Quaker oats, or like Oats So Simple, or what's the other one, Ready Break. They're all like really, they're oats basically that have been refined and broken down a bit more, so your access to the carbs is a lot more easier. So I don't know if I explained this, but I'm sure that everybody is aware that carbohydrates broken down equals sugar, and it equals more sugar if it's easier to extract. So yeah, getting whole oats or steel cut oats is really important. Rye bread. I don't really like rye bread. I'm not going to talk about that, but I don't know if anyone likes rye bread. And then quinoa is a really nice high protein grain. It's actually a seed, but it really helps you increase your protein consumption. Okay. Therapeutic foods to help blood sugar balance. So these are therapeutic foods are foods that I think will help your sensitization to insulin. So these are sort of like medicinal foods, if you like. They have an extra function to help you feel a bit better. So chia seeds are fantastic. They're like soluble fiber. They don't have any flavor, and you can add it to your smoothies, your salads, porridge, and muesli as well. So they're really easy and versatile to use, and they just basically soak up water and form like a goo. If anyone likes chia seed pudding, that's quite good as well. I love chia seed pudding made correctly, because once I made it really badly, it tasted absolutely disgusting. So yeah, make sure you use coconut milk, not water. Okay, cinnamon. Cinnamon is one of the main herbs I use to increase insulin sensitivity. So that's often included in my protocols when people have insulin resistance. Eggs are a superfood. Yeah, so back, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, people really shunned eggs, but it's definitely not unhealthy for you, because it's full of good fats. It's full of plenty of protein. It's got choline in it, which is great for your brain. Everything in eggs really helps to curb your blood sugar response. Kiwi as well, fantastic source of fiber. Green tea has polyphenols in it, so polyphenols is really great for supporting making your cells a bit more insulin sensitive. And then you can have vinegar, extra virgin olive oil, and ginger. So all of these foods have actually been researched to improve insulin sensitivity. Okay,
Laura, can you quickly touch on apple cider vinegar, since everybody is obsessed with that now? I know its benefits for insulin resistance and sensitivity and improving that. However, taking a shot of apple cider vinegar is not going to give you fat loss results. Just for everybody here, if you might have seen it online, that it increases things or makes your metabolism faster, it doesn't. It helps with insulin sensitivity, but it still matters that you remain in a diet, which a lot of people always miss. But
there's no magic bullet. I don't know, the amount of people come to me with questions like, will X help this? I'm just like, yes, but there's so many reasons why you might have you might be struggling with weight loss, and one thing is not going to fix anything. Apple cider vinegar might help. It's good for supporting stomach acid levels. It's great for supporting your liver. It's great for your microbiome balance as well. But just doing that on its own is not going to do anything. Sorry. Where did I go? Oh, right. Sweet tooth substitutes. So I know you guys want something to substitute those sweet treats. So I have got a list here, and actually, if you go to my Instagram, I've actually put together a guide full of other people's posts, so other people's recipes. I thought, wow, that's a fantastic recipe, and it has it tastes sweet, no refined sugars, even minimal on the honey, because honey, of course, sugar is sugar. Even though honey has got lots of health benefits, it's not, when you're eating plenty of honey, it's still sugar. Your body treats it as the same. So it's not always the best solution. So on that guide, I've just collected a few recipes from other people that I think are fantastic. So definitely go check it out. So having frozen yogurt or just yogurt with berries and passion fruit. So anytime I had a craving for sugar or like ice cream, I would go for yogurt and berries and passion fruit, and it tasted really great. And usually that would satisfy my sweet tooth. So give that one a go. Chia seed pudding, as I mentioned before, you use coconut milk. One time I made it with water, and I made it into chocolate mousse, and nobody ate it, and I felt like it tasted like saliva. Not nice. Protein smoothie. So I'm sure that Maya has talked about this before. Having a protein smoothie that's like got peanut butter in it, or berries, cinnamon, nutmeg, some spinach, coconut oil, just some nice things that you like. It can taste really nice and sweet, but it doesn't have to include any sugar in it, right? So that can be a really great way to satisfy your sweet tooth. Although fruit smoothies, I would say don't go for that, because that is very, very high in sugar. You can also put strawberries or banana slices on sourdough toast with a bit of peanut butter. That's always a nice option. And dark chocolate as well. I promise you, if you don't like dark chocolate, if you start weaning yourself off of milk chocolate and then slowly having a piece of dark chocolate here and there, like start from 60%, then go to 70 and then 85, you'll start liking dark chocolate more, and you'll like milk chocolate a lot less. So over time, your craving for chocolate can be satisfied by something that's low in sugar. Supplements. So as a nutritional therapist, I use supplements all the time. So if people have any issues with blood sugar imbalance, then I would always use something like chromium. That's one of the number one supplements I use in order to support insulin resistance. Magnesium, we went through that before. Calcium as well. Vitamin D, you need vitamin D in order to help your body release insulin, and also to receive insulin on cells. Berberine has been researched for its insulin sensitizing properties, but it might not be suited to everyone, because it's also an antimicrobial, which can disrupt your microbiome in your gut if you've got gut issues. So this one, polyphenol complex. So polyphenols are chemicals in plants that basically have lots of antioxidant capacity. So if you're eating a lot of sugar, which is quite inflammatory, you need to protect your cells with some polyphenols so that the damage can be minimized. And when I say damage, it's very, very microscopic. So you can't see the damage, you can't feel the damage, but over time, more and more damage can happen. And if you're unlucky and you keep going that way, if you have diabetes, then that can be a problem. Okay, and cinnamon and the protein smoothie. So you can go for whey protein if you can tolerate it. You can go for pea protein if you can tolerate it. I think sometimes you have to try and error with protein. Some people work best with whey, some people work best with pea, some people can't handle protein powder at all. So that's one to look at. So there we are. Oh my gosh, we're finished. Yeah, if you need to dig deeper, if you've got any chronic health issues, I work with people with issues that are persisting all the time, things that can't be solved with basic nutrition tips. So I'm offering Maya's clients, anybody who's on this call, if you like to dig in a bit more deeper and look at some testing and get to the bottom of these niggling issues that you can't get a hold of, then you get 10% off. So yeah, if you need to get in touch with me, those are my contact details. I'm sure you'll be able to find me. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into some questions.
Thank you so much for that, Laura. That was amazing. And I think
good.
In a way, the main thing that people really want to know is what they can add to their meals rather than subtract. So the substitute for like everybody who's here, it's actually not a case of you just constantly trying to remove things. It's swapping things and adding things. And this is obviously something we speak a lot about with our, insulin resistant clients, who maybe have PCOS, who are trying to manage that in the early stages. The more you focus on what you can have more of, the better your nutrition gets. The problem is that when you jump online, it's usually things that you can't have. So thank you so much. So has anyone got any questions? I think we've got some in the chat as well. There's a couple of questions in the chat there, Laura. So I think one was about smoothies with fresh fruits. It's probably worth talking about how, when you blend fruit, it can change the sugar makeup.
Yeah, so there was a post. Oh, I should have found it. It's on Glucose Goddess. So basically, when you have a whole piece of fruit as nature intended, the sugar is encased with a lot of fiber. So when you eat it, it doesn't actually cause much of a blood sugar rise. But if you juice that or blend it up into a smoothie, all of that fiber is broken down. So your own teeth have to do the hard work to break that fiber down. But if you've already done that in a blender, you're removing all that hard work, and basically all that sugar has been released from the tough cell walls. So yeah, smoothies is actually not very recommended. So if you see people having smoothie bowls for their breakfast, I would say that like run away. If they're recommending smoothie bowls for your breakfast, don't do that, because that's just pure sugar first thing in the morning. So not a good idea.
Yeah, eat the fruit basically.
Yes.
Thoughts on kefir? I think that's how you say it. I actually did try this. And we're all girls here for thrush. Because I kept getting recurrent thrush. How do you find? Obviously, we've done a bit of gut health in this group before, but you know, kefir is one of those things that it's a very acquired taste. But what are your thoughts on that particular food or drink? Even?
I hate it. I think kefir tastes horrible.
It does.
But it tastes awful. I feel like it tastes like cottage cheese. But anyway, if you like it, fair enough. Whatever floats your boat. Try it all by all means. I think kefir is great if you can tolerate dairy and it doesn't cause any issues for you. I think kefir is fantastic. It's full of probiotics. Having a good, well-rounded and diverse microbiome is so key to health. There's like more research coming out telling us that the bacteria in your gut impacts you more than you impact them. So who's actually controlling who? We don't know at the moment. But yeah, having more probiotics in our diet is super important, because most of the Western world is very, very depleted, especially with our over sanitation, cleaning too much, which I am always guilty of because I'm a clean freak. And then over use of antibiotics, as when we were all younger, antibiotics are used like given out like sweets, so ironically, and that caused us to have a lot of microbiome imbalance and gut issues all over the place. We've got food poisoning and all of that causes gut imbalances. So having probiotics in your diet is super important, but there is a caveat, because some people can't tolerate probiotic food. So if you already have lots of gut issues, having kefir or sauerkraut or kimchi or yogurt can actually exacerbate your situation.
Yeah, I will avoid kefir because it made me want to sick. Like I literally was like when I was eating it, like, no, I can't drink this.
Oh my god, same.
It stinks. Are couscous and bulgur wheat examples of complex carbs or refined?
They are complex carbs.
Lovely, perfect. And has anyone else got any other? Oh, got one more question. Is buckwheat tea any good for helping blood sugar levels?
That's a very good question. Buckwheat tea. I don't know that one actually. I'm not sure. I use buckwheat tea for other reasons, like supporting the liver, but I don't use it for blood sugar imbalance. But possibly, I'll look into it.
Lovely. Has anyone else got any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourself if you just want to like span out or anything.
Oh, honey and alternative. So Noran has just asked a question on honey alternatives. So, right, so honey alternatives, I would say it depends on how much you're using. So if you're using a little bit of honey, I don't see a problem. But there is not really an alternative to sugar, really. Coconut sugar is great. It's got lots of minerals, but at the same time, your body treats sugar as sugar. So the only real alternative I would say is stevia. But to be honest, I don't like the taste of stevia. I think it tastes disgusting. But I don't know, use it in baking. But yeah, often in many foods, like convenience foods, they use stevia and it tastes absolutely fine. So you can use stevia. The only thing is, sugars like that can, like sweet flavors, can also stimulate your brain to think that there's sugar. So when you're eating say if it was a Diet Coke, for instance, and you're having fake sugar, and your body thinks, oh, I'm going to get some sugar, therefore I should release some insulin. Let's do that. And you've got all this insulin in your body, but you've got no sugar. Then your body is going to be like, oh wait, where's the sugar? It's going to basically tell your liver to release some sugar from your liver anyway. So then you've got some sugar for the insulin to do something with. So then that can lead to blood sugar imbalance as well. Sorry. And then, so there's not really an alternative for sugar. Really, what I do in order to make things sweet, so if you like to bake, use things like fruits. On my guide, that I made on Instagram, there are some recipes for like chocolate puddles, peanut butter cups with a banana in there. So I'm using like fruit as the sweetness, but in its whole form. So that really helps to curb that blood sugar balance. That chocolate puddle recipe, basically it's cooked raspberries with chia seeds, which we know is fiber, that frozen, and then I think you just pour dark chocolate over it, freeze it all together. It tastes absolutely delicious, and I plan to make that this weekend.
I love that, because you know what? If another person asks me for dessert recipes, I will scream. So I will be directing you to Laura. Listen, I'm not a desserty girl. Like I'm not. I'm just a meat person. I just eat very. That's who I am. But yeah, amazing, guys. Is there anything else that anyone wants to ask? Speak now or forever hold your peace. No question is a stupid question. No.
Feel free to DM me after if anyone has any questions.
No. Lovely, amazing, guys. Thank you so much for that, Laura. Really, really appreciate it. What I would say for everybody here, as you know, we use things like, MyFitnessPal, and we track protein and we do all that stuff. But on the outside, it's always going to be nutrition first. So if you take anything from this, I would be saying, managing your blood sugar levels are going to be a massive thing for you alongside a fat loss journey. It's going to make you feel a lot more better energy-wise, and knowing that you're doing things for your health as well as your body, and how that looks, it all joins into one. So I want to see some people getting some forms and sources that we've seen here into the diet this week. I think it'd be amazing. So yeah. Thank you, Laura.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Maya. It's been a pleasure. Hope you all enjoyed it.
You can all hop off now and go away.
Bye. I'll end it. I just realised I'm the host.
No, it's fine.
Right. See you later. Have a good evening. Bye.
Oh,